Imagine for a moment, it's January of 2020. Unemployment was at an all-time low and the economy was fairly strong worldwide. Then, all of a sudden, everything changed with the onslaught of the COVID pandemic. In the United States, there were presidential briefings on a regular basis, as all of these mandatory government shutdowns came into effect, and our world and life as we knew it quickly turned upside down. Then, in late March of 2020, the U.S. Congress passed the CARES Act, a $2.2 trillion economic stimulus bill. A portion of the CARES funding was dedicated to businesses and nonprofits that either had to shut down or adjust how they were doing their everyday activities. Most were doing everything they could to stay in business and keep their employees on the payroll. One of the most well-known components of the CARES Act was the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP. $659 billion was allocated to PPP, but also within the CARES Act, there was another program called ERC, or Employee Retention Credit, that wasn't being talked about nearly as much. The way the legislation was drafted at the time, organizations could choose to take either PPP or ERC, but not both. At that time, everyone was talking about PPP. It was all over the media. They were focused on PPP, and banks were contacting their business clients about the PPP, so everyone was thinking and talking about PPP. A set amount of PPP funding was allocated for 2020 and 2021, and once it was gone, it was gone. But with the ERC program, there was no limit as far as the allocation at the time, but you could only choose one or the other. At the end of 2020, on December 27th, President Trump signed into law the Consolidated Appropriations Act, which took effect in 2021. This act provided further pandemic tax relief over and above what the CARES Act contained originally. It effectively increased the amount of ERC funds available to businesses and nonprofits from a maximum of $5,000 per employee in 2020 to a total of $26,000 for combined 2020 and 2021 quarters. $26,000 is the maximum amount for the ERC refund, but it is rare to receive this much back. Your exact refund amount will depend on the number of PPP loans you took and also some other factors like salary amounts paid, for example. The ERC was never structured to be a loan. It is a payroll tax credit or refund, as the IRS has determined you overpaid on your taxes. Hardly anyone took notice of this Consolidated Appropriations Act, but because of it, there was now an additional $400 billion allocated for the ERC program. More importantly, this act allowed organizations that had filed previously for PPP to now qualify and file for ERC. But where the misunderstanding lay, everyone believed the stimulus money was gone. The money that had been allocated for the payroll protection program had been used up, and that was the end of it, or so most people thought. So what is ERC? There are a number of big differences between PPP and ERC. First, the PPP was a loan. It could be forgiven if the money was used in the way it was supposed to be used, where approximately 60% went for payroll and the rest for operational expenses. If this was the case, then the company or organization could apply to get their PPP loan forgiven. As mentioned, ERC is not a loan. It's actually a refund of the money you paid in 2020 and 2021 towards keeping your W-2 employees on payroll. Once you receive your refund, it's like any other refund. You use the money however you wish. So it's completely discretionary what your company or nonprofit does with funds that are returned to you through ERC. It's estimated less than 25% of the businesses and nonprofits eligible for ERC have filed their claim to date. Well, why is this, do you think? Well, the reason is because many organizations don't know about this, or they believe they're not eligible based on outdated information, or their tax advisor has based their evaluation of ERC on earlier regulations and told their clients that they don't qualify. But thankfully, we're now getting the word out, and there are more people, once they know the facts, understand that this is money that rightfully belongs to them. Now, there are two separate deadlines for the ERC program. 2020 claims need to be filed by April of 2024, and the 2021 claims need to be filed by April of 2025. Who do we work with and trust to process ERC claims? We have two different companies that we work with. The first is Bottom Line Concepts, with headquarters in Miami, Florida. Bottom Line was originally founded in New York by Josh Fox, who continues to head the company today. Bottom Line has been in business for 15 years and was in the cost savings consulting industry prior to the amendments to the CARES Act. They opened a new government aid division to solely process ERC claims. They are the only company we know of that has been furnished with a private portal within the IRS website, allowing them to check on the status of any ERC claim filed at any time. Bottom Line has served hundreds of Fortune 500 and 1,000 companies. They were one of the first firms to recognize the impact of the 2021 Appropriations Act with respect to the Employee Retention Credit Program. They are the #1 ERC processor in America, working strictly on contingency, meaning there's no risk to clients, no upfront consultation or filing fees. Bottom Line provides services for a percentage of the return, an agreed-upon fee prior to starting the ERC process, so everything is settled and agreed upon before work begins. Clients only receive an invoice from Bottom Line once they've received their overpayment checks from the Treasury. Bottom Line has filed over 30,000 ERC claims to date and helped return over $4.5 billion in tax refunds. Bottom Line serves businesses and nonprofits that retained at least 5 full-time W-2 employees during 2020 and or 2021. We have another trusted partner that processes claims for organizations that have between 2 and 4 W-2 employees that I'll introduce shortly. Here are a few of the companies that Bottom Line has served over the years to show the level of trust major U.S. companies have in this firm, and that they are the best choice when it comes to processing your ERC claim. For example, in their accounting division, they've done work for a number of well-known companies, one being McKinsey & Company and also Ernst & Young. These top accounting firms hired Bottom Line to assist them with their cost savings. Here are 3 testimonials from other major accounting companies. First is from Mazars USA's CFO, and then Eisner Amper also has some kind words, as well as a glowing review from Markham Accountants and Advisors. Large recognizable companies in their private equity division hired Bottom Line, such as Sun Capital and Blackstone. If you look at their sports division, teams like the Phillies, the Yankees, and the Lakers hired Bottom Line to help them with their cost savings work. Here you can see a portion of their franchise division, all of these recognizable brands that have been served throughout the country. I could show you a number of other divisions that Bottom Line has, but as you can see, this company has trust, recognition, respect, and credibility throughout the nation, as well as an unassailable reputation when it comes to being the company of choice for doing cost savings and government aid work. The other company we work with, Stimulus Geeks, handles smaller claims for organizations that have between 2 and 4 full-time W-2 employees, as well as part-time employees, depending on how many you have. Pastor Brian Jones is the CEO of Stimulus Geeks. He is also the executive director for Impact Network, which is one of the largest Christian broadcasting television networks in the world. Stimulus Geeks is on a mission to serve the underdogs as best they can, the underserved, those smaller companies that are often passed over and need the most help. We wanted to have a trusted partner that had a long history of helping smaller businesses and nonprofits that couldn't qualify to work with Bottom Line. Pastor Jones has been doing business consulting work successfully for over 30 years. When the pandemic hit, he started Stimulus Geeks as an offshoot of his main consulting business, and things have just taken off from there. In the case of ERC, this is all about creating an opportunity for the smaller businesses and nonprofits to work with a company who will put their best interests first. Stimulus Geeks serves small businesses as well as specializing in helping nonprofits, and works diligently to service clients across the country for their ERC claims. Businesses that retain between 2 and 4 full-time employees, in order to have their claim processed, would have to have had a 50% reduction in revenue in 2020 compared to the same quarters in 2019, and a 20% reduction in revenue based on the same quarters for 2019 for 2021. As the paperwork and filing is too laborious to qualify these smaller businesses on process impacts alone, we are limited to helping those smaller businesses that qualify based on the revenue reduction percentages just mentioned. So let's recap. What does the ERC mean for businesses and nonprofits? Organizations may qualify for up to $26,000 per employee for 2020 and the impacted quarters of 2021. This money comes from a fund, approximately $400 billion, set aside by the U.S. government specifically for the ERC program. If your organization did not receive PPP loans, you could qualify from between $15,000 and $26,000. If your organization received one round of PPP, the estimated refund is between $10,000 and $15,000. If your organization received 2 rounds of PPP, the estimated refund is between $6,000 and $10,000. There are no restrictions on how you use these funds. Again, it is 100% discretionary. The goal of this presentation is to give you the most accurate and up-to-date information when it comes to filing your ERC claim with a trusted company that has been doing this for many thousands of clients to date. So that was my goal, was to bring you vetted companies that you could feel confidence with moving forward. Now, I have to be honest with you. One of the biggest challenges that I face as a referral partner with Bottom Line Concepts is the fact that 80% of the people that speak directly with Bottom Line, that schedule appointments with our experts, honestly believe that they do not qualify for the program for whatever reason. So this is a huge problem that we seem to be facing day in and day out, is the misinformation and the misunderstandings that are out there when it comes to the amendments that took place to the CARES Act. So I'd like to tell you a quick story, if I may. The other day, I called a church in the Midwest and I spoke to a young lady there. And I asked her if her church had explored the Employee Retention Credit Program. And she said that a company had come to their town. They claimed to be experts with the program, and that they went around to all the churches in the area and determined that only one, which didn't include her church, actually qualified for the ERC. And so I asked her why she thought that was. Well, she honestly didn't know, but I suspect quite strongly that the reason why was because this company was only basing their assessments on a revenue reduction alone, that they were not taking into consideration the process impacts or these 1,000 or so additional qualifiers that are now in place because of the amended and expanded CARES Act. And this is Bottom Line's specialty, having processed over 30,000 claims and returned over $4.5 billion in refund amounts to clients. A lot of that work was based on the process impacts that are too numerous to go into, which is why I encourage you to talk with one of our experts and to get a second opinion when it comes to your particular situation. So I'd like to share an analogy with you too, if I may. Just think about it. If you had a serious condition happening, if you had a heart condition, and you were told by your general practitioner or maybe a person just out of med school that you needed to have open heart surgery, would you want to get a second opinion from an expert that had done open heart surgeries hundreds or perhaps even thousands of times? Of course you would. You wouldn't want to leave a serious operation of that magnitude in the hands of someone who didn't have the depth of experience that a bona fide heart surgeon actually had over the years. So I like to compare that scenario in medicine to this one here when it comes to your tax refund. This is essentially a once-in-a-lifetime situation. So do you want to have your claim handled by somebody who's perhaps never done this before? If your situation is a bit more complex and you have more employees to take into consideration, or would you feel more comfortable getting the accurate information from an expert that has done this thousands of times? My question to you today is, would you be opposed to getting a second opinion when it comes to your ERC claim, or to clear up any misinformation potentially that you may have received when it comes to your qualifications for this? That's what I encourage you to do, is to keep an open mind and to
answer that question honestly. Would I be opposed? Would I be opposed to spending 15 minutes with someone who can perhaps give me a second opinion and shed more light on my particular situation? So I encourage you to book your call today while it's top of mind. And if you need help with another language, we do have Spanish-speaking experts that can speak with you. And if you need accommodation in another language, just get in touch with me and I'll do my best to accommodate that need. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon. And best wishes for success when it comes to your ERC claim.